right. Hey guys, we're back for round 2 or 3, depending on which one you're watching. So yeah, hopefully you made, yeah, 3. Yeah, let's see if they actually clicked it to watch the second one. All right, guys, welcome back. My name is Chris LaChance, and over on the other side is, who's on the other side? Is that
Mike LaRosa?
Mike LaRosa.
Yep. Good to see you guys again.
Yeah. All right, so we wanted to kind of come back to you guys with additional information. We've kind of read up on a few different topics. We've done as much research as we could find on the topic to try to hopefully make it a little bit easier for you guys to understand. So the first one looks like, and it's crazy to even think this, but when I read it, I was shocked. But appraisals and how they potentially can be completed 120 days, up to 120 days after the closing, which is insane. But Mike, I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I know my thoughts, but what's your take on that?
I think it seems counterintuitive. It seems like it's fraught with issues, and I'm pretty surprised, considering the alternatives that are available these days, that it's really being touted as an option right now. Before we dive too far into that, I mean, look, the fact is that the use of automated valuation models, or they call them AVMs, it happened in the past. There's no reason why they can't use them now, and it can alleviate the need for physical appraisals in many cases. And these are when you hear about desk appraisals or drive-by appraisals, they're using more online tools to value the homes. They're using, in some cases, the help of the homeowner to provide pictures, to update their reports and their inspections. The appraisal itself, though, I think that process, so much of it can be done, with the use of online data. And the idea that we're going to instead utilize an appraisal after the fact, it's problematic. Valuation is going to be the most obvious issue. So if you've already closed and 120 days later the home value is 10% less than it was, what is the result? What is the solution? There's nothing in the rule about that. It just says it can be done.
Yeah, that's where I kind of kept thinking about it. It's like, what if something happens and drops 20%? Who's responsible? Is the bank going to pull the note?
Well,
are they going to go back to the buyer and say, hey, you owe me 20 grand because the valuation's not there? It's crazy.
It's a good question. With the AVMs, in fact, there used to be a limit of, I think, $250,000 that you could utilize these other valuation models. And that's been increased since October of last year to $400,000. So, there's a pretty significant percentage of homes that could potentially be appraised in that manner.
Yeah, it's I'd love to. I mean, if we had more time, it would be great to have an appraiser, on here, just because I'm sure that their opinion on this is probably the same as ours. Why not?
This can't be a good thing for the appraisers. I can't believe that it would be. On March 23rd, the FHFA directed Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to provide alternative flexibilities to satisfy appraisal and employment verification requirements. Okay. Alternative flexibilities. So my thought was AVMs and more online based. I really hope that the 120 days after isn't what we're calling flexible. So, all right, let's see. The rule states, Chris, the agencies also expect institutions, these agencies, the Federal Reserve, the FDIC, the OCC, the agencies, they expect institutions, being, these, I guess, appraisers out there, to develop, the whole industry, to develop an appropriate risk mitigation strategy if the appraisal or evaluation ultimately reveals a market value significantly lower than the expected market value. Whatever appropriate means, and of course, this is the concern. And they're expecting the industry to take this into consideration and respond accordingly. for the life of me, I don't know what that means, though. I don't know how to respond accordingly to that. If I'm the one at risk here, if it's my transaction, I'm utilizing an appraisal prior to close, some form of appraisal. So we'll see. But apparently the rule change is in effect until the end of this year. It'll be interesting to see how many banks take advantage of the new rule. It only applies to banks that are under the oversight of the Federal Reserve, FDIC, or OCC so far. But we'll see what happens with the GSEs. I mean, FHA, HUD, VA, Fannie Mae, Freddie, they still require appraisals prior. I think that's wise, but they might follow suit as well. And it only applies to loans that are kept in the bank's portfolio. I don't know why they came up with that. Maybe it's because they know there would be issues trying to sell them on the secondary market. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, packaging them up and selling them off, which could be the issue. Yeah.
I don't know that there'd be a market for that. So, and you know, I don't know what is gonna, I don't know what's gonna come from this. I'm hopeful that most people continue to utilize these other methods that are available to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we all know the appraisal companies, they're getting creative. They're doing these, as safe as they can, trying to prevent any type of spread. So, I mean, they're doing their part. It seems like it may make their job even harder. So,
well, there's also, I know you're the expert, or more of an expert on this than I am, but there's also changes in the 1031 world, right?
I mean, it seems that way. I mean, based off of some of the data we've seen over the last couple of days, actually, I think it was last week on April 9th, something came out, the IRS published notice issuing guidance, granted deadline relief for the 1031 exchanges. So it, in a sense, they said anything that sold, and it had, within the 45-day deadline, fell between April 1st and July 15th, they were kind of granted within this. In addition to if their 180-day deadline fell between April 1st and July 15th, they also kind of fell in this relief stage for 1031 exchanges. So
they have an extended period of time to find their investment property that they're going to flip the money into instead. So that's that.
So it kind of, so it kind of said, the 45-day deadline was extended to July 15th. The 180-day deadline was extended also to July 15th. In a sense, here's an example for you. So taxpayer Cahill sold his property on March 1st. His day, 45 days of 4/15, April 15th, is now extended to July 15th.
Okay.
So then you have another taxpayer, let's call her Adeline, sold her property on October 4th, 2019. Her day, 180 days after that, would be within that April 1st time frame. It's now extended to July 15th of this year. And obviously they don't have to, add any type of or file for an extension. But that's kind of the way they're looking at it. Like if your deadline falls within that period, it gets pushed back to the July 15th. We've talked to some 1031 companies as well that they're trying to push it all the way back to till January 2021. So some of the 1031 companies are trying to say July 15th may not be sufficient enough, push it all the way back to the following year or to the next year, which would be an additional 6 months. So a lot of things going on, but the biggest thing is if your deadline falls within that April 1st to April 1st to July 15th period, it gets pushed to that July 15th date. So just kind of like our taxes, right? Taxes were pushed to the July 15th date. So Uncle Sam doesn't get his money right off the bat. So, but look, on the 1031s, I mean, look, in reality, just make sure to consult, a tax advisor on that. We're by all means not we're not trying to say we're experts on that at all. So advise a tax specialist on that. That was just kind of one of the main bullets we saw if you're working with 1031 properties. So, and with that, let's, I think that's it for this one. We've probably given them enough information. Yeah, from appraisals to 1031. So I'm sure they're well past their first cup of coffee. So, all right, everyone, have a great day.
Bye, guys.